Chatty Katie.
I know.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited. I've been looking at your Instagram going like, this girl looks like a vibe.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'd tried to organise this not long ago.
Yeah.
And then obviously Christmas got in the way, and now it's like fresh start to the new year, and it's
Fresh
nice
Jan.
just to like sit down and relax and have a chat.
Yeah, and I mean, I love your Instagram because it says you love to chat.
I do love a chat. I do.
And what does that look like for you in practice? Like, who are you, and what do you do in the world to be such a chatter?
So, yeah, basically, I just talk for a living, I guess. I work in dance music. I am a presenter, a podcaster, and yeah, most of my jobs involve around talking to different people in the dance music industry, whether that be professionals that work behind the scenes or artists. And I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, like all of the different areas, but basically it's just finding out like what people do in the industry, more about their career and fun stories that they've come across along the way. And yeah, I freelance for different media outlets, for festivals, for radio stations, but all very much in the dance music space.
Wow. And so how did that all begin for you? You seem passionate about what you get to do.
Yeah. So I had always wanted to be a presenter since I was like 7 years old. You remember Kat Deely?
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you can remember as if she's not there, but like Kat Deely. So she was like my idol when I was younger. I just wanted to be Kat Deely when I was younger. And I was always used to do like practice interviews on people and, pretend that I had a show and all of that. And then when I was 18, my boyfriend at the time had a friend who was the marketing manager at Amnesia Ibiza, and they needed somebody to go over to Ibiza and spend the season helping them with press and PR, basically just doing work experience. And they were like, do you want to come over for 3 months and help us out? And I was like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I'll do it for free. So anyway, so I went over and I was like 1 month into my time in Ibiza, and they decided to open a YouTube channel. So this was I was just around 19. So 2013, I then moved to Ibiza, and whilst I was there, they decided to open this YouTube channel. And they wanted somebody that could speak Spanish and English. Now, I grew up in Spain. I was born here in the UK, but I moved to Spain when I was 12. So I went to uni in Spain so I could speak Spanish. And so they were like, why don't you give it a go? They can do a little test and see if you like it. And if it goes well, then you would just be here on an evening interviewing all of the DJs. So I was like, yeah, okay, thinking that will happen in like a month's time, because everything in Spain is always
takes
like
mañana.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, yeah, they're saying that, then it's never going to happen. And about 2 hours later, I got a call to say, oh, you've got your first interview. It's in 3 hours time, and it's with Steve Aoki. And I was like, and Steve Aoki at this point was like massive.
Big,
like
yeah.
It was his cake throwing huge era cream, and like it was like massive. So I was like, okay, right, this is my first ever interview. So I did the first interview. I look back on it now and it is so cringe. I'm like, okay, why would I even ask that question? But that was the first one. And then from there, I spent the whole season interviewing artists, and I would do like 4 to 5 DJs every single night. And I did that for 4 years. So I used to run all the PR for Amnesia, the press department. And then that was my daytime job. And then my evening job was to interview the DJs. So it was kind of like a crash course in interviewing people. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, really.
Wow.
But yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow. And so I know you mentioned off camera, you spent 10 years in Ibiza.
10
Did it start then?
That's exactly where it started. So it was only supposed to be 3 months for doing this work experience. And then after the first summer, I was like, I love this. I love the job. So I did my first 5 years was just seasonal. So I would get there like April, May time until about October. And then I would either go traveling or I did a couple of years in Barcelona. And then the last 5 years I was there was all year round.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I did a year in Ibiza living there, or just under. and I'd gone about 20 times before.
Had you?
Yeah, and it's very different, isn't it?
It is so
Kind of
different.
going there from a party side and then
is.
living there. What is it like living there?
Well, that's what I
from
was
your
just about to
perspective?
say. Like, my favorite part of the year, obviously I love my job and I love what I do, but I actually really like winters in Ibiza because it's very much like local people, winter activities. If you've got a dog, it's great. Lots of hikes. It's not that cold. I mean, compared to the UK, it's not cold at all. And it's just really nice. It's a really nice place for downtime. But living there in summer, it's amazing. I'm so grateful that I did it. But I definitely got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. It becomes a little bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the same people, same industry. And I think it gets to a point, I mean, obviously it depends on what you want to do. For like DJs and producers, it's a great place to go, and it's an amazing place to network. That's one of the biggest things that I've got out of that. Is I've made so many contacts, but it does become a little bit of a bubble, and it gets a little bit samey. And I do think that Ibiza 2013, 2014, 2015 is much better than it is now. So I feel like I've lived like some really good years of it. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm so grateful for the time that I had there and everything that I learned. It was literally where I learned everything that I know now.
And I mean, it's one of the best hotspots for what you do and what you've moved into in dance music.
Absolutely.
And how did your career kind of evolve and change out there?
So, yeah, my first job, as I said, was this job at Amnesia. And then from there was like, at the time, a lot of media outlets that wanted to cover stuff in Ibiza, like DJ Mag or like different Spanish outlets that needed people, kind of like correspondents that were probably on the island. So I started doing a lot of like freelance working, doing that as well. And yeah, I've been freelance from the very beginning, which was always a struggle at first because especially when you're not really like known and you maybe have like one client, and like trying to live off that for the first few years was tough. Like my first few years in Ibiza were really, really hard. Me and my mum were speaking about it over Christmas actually. She was like, you remember the times like where you used to live in this tiny little box room and you were like, my parents had said to me so many times, come home. And I was like, no, I'm sticking this through. Like I am going to do this. And I did. And I'm so glad that I did now. But yeah, I think in terms of work, it was more just different media outlets coming in, and then from doing things on Ibiza, then being able to do stuff in other places around the world, whether that was here in the UK or going to cover things like ADE in Amsterdam or Miami Music Week. So I guess just from being out there and networking and doing different things, and also building a relationship with a lot of the artists, made it so much easier for me to then interview them for other media outlets. Because a lot of the DJs that I started, that I'd interviewed, at that time, Amnesia, I think 2 years after, I also started working at Ibiza Global Radio. So I was there for 4 years. So I was kind of doing Amnesia and Ibiza Global Radio at the same time. And a lot of DJs, like it was a big thing for them to come into Ibiza Global Radio at that time and, you know, do an hour's mix. Like that was like prime time on the island. Everybody would be listening to it. So it was, I think it kind of played a role in a lot of artists' career right at the beginning as well, and their growth. So now from having that relationship with them from the very beginning, it's a lot easier for me to get some of the interviews and create some of the content that I want to now.
It's such a relational industry, isn't it?
It absolutely.
Yeah, I know everyone says it about every industry or every business it's in your network, but I'm like, this industry is even more so.
It is. It absolutely is. Like, I think whenever anyone asks, oh, what's one tip you would give somebody? And I think the majority of people in the industry would say, just network as much as you can.
Yeah, and it's your reputation alongside that. If you deliver on what you say and you're good at what you do, your network expands further and further, and everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
Do you know what one of my favorite things is as well? That it's like an industry that you can go anywhere in the world and you will know somebody.
Yeah.
Or you will know somebody that knows somebody that will then bring you together. Like you go and work in a festival in like, I don't know, the other side of the world in Australia, and there'll be people there that you know that you've worked with in Ibiza, or or in Thailand or just random stuff. And I'm like, it's so like, it's nice.
It's awesome. I remember when like a year ago, I took the company out to Dubai. And it was exactly the same thing. I'd got introduced to a friend who I've worked with since I was 19. And I sat down with his friend, and it was literally like I was talking to my friend, like all the same people. And the ease with that. Yeah. It's just awesome, isn't it? It's so much easier to do stuff overseas and in different markets.
100%. Didn't that make you feel like so much more comfortable though? Like
100%.
Moving a whole business out there and then knowing that you have people that even if you didn't know directly were friends of friends, it just makes you feel a bit more relaxed.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And so what's been your most interesting or memorable chat if you had to pick one?
Oh my God, I've done so many.
How many have you done, do you reckon?
That is a really good question. I actually don't know. I would probably say when I was like the Amnesia years, if I was doing like 5 to 6 interviews a night, 5 a week, 20, I don't know. I've definitely done over like, I'd probably say over 1,000 interviews for sure. But what's my favorite? I don't know. There was this one interview that I really enjoyed doing, which was with, do you know who Indira Pagonotto is? Mm-mm. So she's a DJ and producer, techno, psy-techno it's called, the genre. And she's been in the game for a very long time, but only really had her like big break a couple of years ago. And we sat down and we'd kind of been organising this podcast for such a long time. We sat down and we opened a bottle of wine and we sat on her sofa at her home and just had this really lovely conversation about just kind of reflecting on the first year, that past year that she'd had. And it was really her first year of like headlining a lot of festivals and you know, just being very, very successful. And sometimes I feel like when I interview people, it kind of becomes a little bit of a therapy session in terms of it allows the artist to actually sit back, relax and reflect on what they've done the last year. Because I think their lives are so fast paced that a lot of artists don't ever really sit down and think, oh, let me think about what I've done over the last year, because it's just they're on the go all the time. So sometimes I feel like sometimes having them conversation, it's like, let's talk about like last year when you headlined Tomorrowland, and they're like, oh yeah, that seems like such a long time ago. And it's just a nice moment to, that's kind of not even answering your question. No,
but like I get it. It's like what you create for people.
Yeah,
it's almost like creating that space. Yeah.
So
I interviewed Jen and Alfie.
Oh, I love them.
So great.
Lovely.
When I was in Dubai. And they were talking about that practice, how they sit down with their manager like at the beginning of the year and actually just reflect and plan out the year. Because when it gets to their summers, I mean, they've just popped off, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Exactly.
And they're non-stop.
That's it. And once you're in that, like if as an artist that's maybe like just starting out, like beginning that practice on an early stage of your career, I think is a really healthy thing to do, because before you know it, if luckily everything does pop off for you and you try and get into that practice, it could be quite hard to then like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's nice to start that when you can, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Any crazy memories or stories from any chats that you can share?
Any crazy memories or chats?
Or one that really had you laughing for ages?
I did this thing last year with Fatboy Slim. He was celebrating the 500th release of his record label, Southern Fried Records. And so we thought it'd be a good idea to interview him whilst we deep fat fried random things.
That's brilliant.
So we went to he has a cafe in Brighton. Right. So we went to his cafe.
What's it called?
It's called The Big Cafe.
I'll have to check this out.
I should know this.
I'll Google it. We'll Google it. Yeah.
The Big. I can't remember. Anyway.
It's Googleable.
Yeah, it's Googleable. It's really cool, by the way. So we went to the cafe and he just happened to have this new deep fat fryer. So it was like perfect timing. So I got like, we were going to do deep fat fried banana skin, deep fat fried crumpets, deep fat fried Mars bars. No, we didn't do Mars bars because we were like, that's already done. We're going to do Twixes.
Cool.
Just to change it up.
Mix it up.
Mix it up a little bit. We've deep fat fried Haribo fried eggs. And it was just the most random day, but it was so much fun. And then we had to just sit down as if it was like a 3-course meal and explain what the dishes were.
That is fantastic.
Then we had to like rate them from 1 to 10 on the presentation and the taste. And they were all, none of them were actually very nice, to be honest. We did one that was like cheese on crumpets and then deep fat fried, and it just came out like a brick. That was interesting.
Cooking lessons with Fatboy Slim.
Cooking lessons with Fatboy Slim. I like to do stuff that's kind of just like out of like a normal setting of interviewing. Yeah. I did another one with Adam Bayer, which was hot sauce tasting whilst doing an interview. And there was just a point where I was like, I can't speak anymore. Sorry. Like, it was ridiculously spicy, like crying. Yeah. We were like both boiling hot. It was like August in Ibiza.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that was a fun one as well.
I mean, I'm just laughing at hearing them, let alone actually getting to do it. Was that your idea, a collab together? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I try and come up with fun ideas that just make it all a little bit just different. And I think sometimes doing things like this with an artist, like we've done other ones, like we went bowling with Yulia Nico. I've gone Dodgem car racing with Marco Faroni. I think putting a DJ into like a different setting and they just feel really relaxed, and you just get a little bit of another side to them. So yeah, I like to think like that's like the exciting part of my job, like thinking of random shit to do, basically.
I love that. I need to watch some of these. I've watched I need to see this.
Yeah,
and the industry is full of characters, isn't it? So I suppose you capture part of that. Of who they are.
Exactly. I think as well, like it's always doing stuff like that is a lot of the artists that I do these kind of things with, I have actually already interviewed before. So there is that kind of like rapport. So it makes it a little bit easier, but you also have to choose like who you're going to do what with. Like doing that with Fatboy Slim just made sense because it was just going to be funny. So I think there's some DJs that are still, it's harder to get a little bit out of them. But yeah, there are definitely some characters. I had some absolute characters.
I think the industry just attracts it, right?
It does. What's wrong with us?
I know. I think, and if you've stayed in it for a while as well, you're like, I often reflect on like 2 decades in, like, it's just kind of who I am now.
I know, that's it. I'm just never going to change.
No, I'm okay with it now.
Yeah,
but for a while, you're like, I'll eventually stop. Like, I'll get out of it at some point, or like, but then you're like, well, what?
This is us.
This is it. Yeah,
you're not going anywhere. You know that. Like you're just going to be like this forever.
And embracing that. But obviously, like a lot of people, we look at dance music or the festival industry, nightlife industry, and see that kind of glamorized, fun side of it. What are maybe some of like the darker sides of DJ life or artist life that are not spoken about enough?
I think that you're totally right that it's definitely a lifestyle and it's a job and an industry that looks very glamorous. And don't get me wrong, we have so much fun. I'm very, very grateful to be able to do what I do. But there is the downsides to it, which is if you work in events, which are the late nights, the early mornings, the travel, and it does get to you. My first years at Amnesia, when I said at the beginning of the podcast that the first few years were, I had a daytime job, which was doing the press, and my evening job was doing all the interviews. I used to start work at 10 a.m. I used to finish at 7 p.m. I used to go home. I used to shower, eat something ridiculous like boiled eggs on toast or something so stupid.
Pot noodles maybe.
Or a pot noodle or just like anything that I had that would be really quick. I would nap for half an hour and then I would have to be back at the club for just before midnight because that's when a lot of the DJs would come. And then I would wait to get all of my interviews done for 5 a.m. So I literally, and then by the time I got home it would be 6 and then I would sleep for 3 hours and I'd be back. I mean, when you're like 20, that's you can get away with that. Yeah. I could never do that now. No. And I always remember when anyone used to say to me like, oh, I would never be able to do that now. I used to think I will never get to that age, but you do. You eventually get there.
How old are you, by the way?
32.
Yeah, I'm 35. It definitely hits.
It definitely hits. I think it got to my 30s and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
No, totally. Like 8 hours, necessary life.
Absolutely. So I think that's definitely, and I remember there was times where I used to live in in San Rafael, and Amnesia was literally like a 10-minute drive. There was days where I actually had to stop at the petrol station, pull the car over, sleep for 5 minutes just to carry on driving.
Wow.
Like that's how tired I was. And I think about it now and it's just insanity. Like I shouldn't have even been driving like that. But yeah, I think there's definitely that side to it where it is just non-stop. And there's not really, unless you have an office job, you don't have like timetables, or you don't have like a fixed time that you start work. Like last night I finished work at 1 a.m. because I was working with a media outlet that's in the States, and then was working with somebody else, speaking to somebody else this morning that's in Australia. So it's just like, it is what it is. I think that is a hard part. And don't get me wrong, like I think in every industry there's always like your pros and your cons. But I think one of the main things is definitely just like that part of just not really getting enough rest, especially if you're traveling and it's time zones. And it's like not having a routine. I'm very much a routine person. I like and I need routine in my life. So when I have like a few weeks of just pure travel back home, and then go into another country, and then you're not necessarily seeing anything, you're just going there for work. Like it is, I can see why a lot of DJs get to a point of burnout, or a lot of people in the music industry.
And I guess from a DJ perspective too, what do you think are some of the, I mean, maybe it is more spoken about now, but like some of those challenges that they face?
I think that's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Just like trying to find that balance and finding balance for themselves, and like family time as well. Like a lot of artists that have kids, have their families at home, and it's just like trying to find that balance between everything. And that, like, at the end of the day, it's not like the healthiest of industries that we work in. I mean, most people in the industry are surrounded by alcohol, you're surrounded by drugs, there's temptations, there's the sleepless nights. So it's I think it's being very strong mentally and trying to find a routine within the chaos. Organized chaos.
Eventually organized chaos.
I'm still not organized. I've not got to that point, so if you have, then let me know how that goes.
So we even had a strategy meeting with my managers yesterday. We've got an office team of 15 women, and there was 8 of them on there yesterday, and I said, they was like, what do you still love about doing this, like 16 years in? And I was like, I think I love chaos. It's like, I actually think that is, and they were all like, I love chaos. And we had this big thing about actually people, you've got to be able to embrace the chaos in this industry and work with it.
Okay, so are you one of them people that if everything runs really smoothly,
I have to go create a fire?
You're like, something's got to go wrong. Yeah, me too.
I can literally kind of my like, I probably like voice note a friend about once every 6 weeks, like, everything's just going okay. Like I need to do something that's gonna, and they're like, be careful.
I know.
Be careful.
So I said to my boyfriend last week, there was 2 days in the week that I checked off everything on my to-do list, and then I was literally just sat there like, I don't really know what to do. Like, I don't ever really feel like this. So I need something that's just going to be like, and feel a little bit of stress and a little bit of pressure.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you get yourself used to that, I guess, after those years. And you learn how to cope in that and still stay sane. And
yeah, absolutely. I think when you've done it from such a young age as well, you get used to it. I always think about people that start in the industry like a little bit later on in life that have maybe had like 9-to-5 jobs before. I'm like, what's it like?
Yeah, how? Can you tell me about this?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look
like?
How
does that feel?
And so for you, where you're at now, so you're 32, how do you personally see, and how have the DJs, some of the female DJs, been able to have families?
I think it's something that more and more is spoken about a lot more, and it's seen a lot more. Like, I have quite a few female DJs that literally tour every single weekend and have now had babies. And I think it's become, I don't want to say the word accepted, because like, I think it's always been accepted, but it just wasn't as heard of. And I think also there's a lot more support around it, and there's a lot more conversations around like bringing up children in, like, even if you have that kind of job. I I think we're definitely in a more positive place than we were probably a few years back. I think there's still obviously a lot more work that needs to be done in that space, but I think at the end of the day, if you're like having that support around you and also mentally like accepting the fact that, you know, you probably will have to take a little bit of time off and like accept the fact that you're pregnant, because like I had one of my friends that felt pregnant, but she was a touring DJ, is a touring DJ, and didn't really want anybody to know about it because she feared that there would be promoters, booking agents that would take her off lineups or not book her for the following year. And I was like, yeah, but like this is part of you. Like you should be proud of that. I understand totally where she's coming from, and I'm sure that is the case for some women. And I'm sure there probably would have been agents that would be like, she's pregnant, that one's out.
Yeah.
You know? So I think it's trying to change that mindset a little bit on both sides for like to allow us to have that period of bringing mini humans into the world, but then like life carries on after that as well if you want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's more role models now, or there's more people doing it, which is, and speaking about it and showing us that it's possible.
Absolutely. It's something that I've worried about before. I definitely want to have children, and that's always been on my path, my life plan. That is something that I've wanted to do, but I did used to worry about that all the time, especially as a freelance.
Yeah,
like how does that work, and what am I going to do? And but yeah, I think I've kind of come to terms with the fact that it's just the way it is. Luckily, I'm with somebody that like a really loving partner that, you know, I know that there's that support there as well, and I have my family around me, and there's all of that. But I think it's just accepting the fact of like work would slow down.
Things will change.
Things will change, but life changes. So
yeah. It's always in change, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I'm still working this piece out. I'm like, what do I need to decide on?
Yeah.
But
that's so annoying as well, that we have that pressure of what we need to know. Like that part does upset me. I'm lucky enough that I have always known for a fact that I want to do. But I do, as you've just said, I know so many women that are at the same point where they're like, I kind of need to be making a decision.
Yeah. And you've got a plan as well. Like for me, I'm kind of like, I couldn't continue doing what I'm doing, the pace that I'm doing, the way that I'm doing it. So then what do I need to plan for?
Exactly.
And that's it, isn't it? You have to start putting those things in motion early.
Exactly. Yeah. But as you said, I think there's a lot more role models. There's a lot more people that speak about it now. And I think we just have to embrace it.
Yeah. And women are really coming up in dance music more. I've been reading different articles, different pieces of research, you know, how little we used to be represented in like the charts or like music tracking.
Yeah.
Is it really changing, or is it just kind of statistics like swayed that way?
I think it is changing. Yeah. I think it's changing not only as in artists, but also in the people that work in the industry. I remember when I started out, my whole office was men. I was the only woman for like 3 or 4 years.
Which as a presenter, you'd think that would be, you know, you have a perception that might be a bit more
mixed, it was very, and it is still very male dominated industry, as we all know, but I do think things are changing. I think there's a lot more conversation about it. I had to do some voiceover work not long ago for Time Warp Festival. It was their 30-year anniversary. And I was putting like the scripts together and wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, the evolution of artists and artists that had played from the beginning. And as I went through all of their lineups from the very beginning, literally for like the first, I'm going to say like 10-ish years, there was hardly any women. There was like Monica Cruz like from the beginning, but it was literally just all men on this lineup. And then you can see as years go by that it was, you know, the more women added to it. And I do get that before maybe it was the fact that there was just a lot more male DJs and producers. But I do think it's changing. I think there's still quite a big step and there's still a lot more to go. And I know sometimes that like promoters and bookers will argue, yeah, well, we want to actually do, like, if they're talented, they're talented. And then and I get that, because I sometimes, and maybe you might have have come across this as well, but booking a podcast sometimes for specific topics that I want to talk about, I'll make like a few suggestions of guests, and a lot of them will be male, and it's just because that's what they specialize in. But I do think that our role, or the roles of bookers or agents that, you know, could make a change in that. There is that talent out there. There's more and more female producers and DJs than ever before. And if you're going to bet on like an upcoming male DJ, just do the same but with a female. So I think it's changing. It's just, I think there's a lot of mindsets that need to be changed.
Yeah, and it is that whole argument, isn't it, where people go, you don't want to just be the token like woman booked because you want to be known for your talent, but it takes the intention to find it at the moment. And I think we're in that precipice of change. Like, you might fast forward 20 years' time, and if it continues to go how it's going, we might not need to have the same conversations right now. Absolutely.
I think that is like the hope, really, isn't it, for women in music, where we don't have to have these conversations. I do also think I think it's mindset for a lot of that needs to be changed, really.
Yeah.
But hopefully we would have this conversation again, and it's not like that.
Yeah. And have there been any experiences for you as a woman in dance music, doing what you're doing, that have been really uncomfortable because of the way you've been treated as a woman?
Yeah, actually. So, and this has happened to me, luckily enough, only a couple of times. I'm going to say 3 times in the last 12 years of doing this job. But I've had a couple of cases interviewing male DJs where they have taken our safe space of conversation just a little bit too far, and them thinking that, you know, as a presenter, part of the role is to make the guest that you're talking to feel comfortable and feel relaxed. And I think sometimes some people get confused with that and think that, oh, she's flirting with me, there's something going on here, and then taking it like a little bit too far. So I had two, one of them was very much at the beginning, and I never did anything about it, which I was I was upset with myself for not really just saying anything. But I was very young at that point, and I just kind of thought like it was a very, very, very well-known DJ, and I was nobody. And I never said anything about it. It was only just something that he said to me, but it was just very inappropriate. And then 2 years ago, I was working for a festival in the Caribbean, and I was interviewing a DJ, and at the end there was a lot of other industry people around, other DJs that were there just kind of listening in. And can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so at the end of the podcast, the end of the interview, he was on camera, goes, so how many DJs have you fucked after interviewing them? And I just literally just froze, like what, where is that, like, why?
And you were interviewing him.
And I was interviewing him. It was just a very rude, inappropriate thing to ask. And I froze because I just didn't really know what to say at that point. I wasn't expecting him to say something so disgusting. And so anyway, the interview, I think I just kind of laughed it off, and then I walked away. And then another DJ that was there came up to me. He was like, are you actually going to let him talk to you like that? He was like, that was not right. He was like, there was a couple of things that he kept saying that he was not interested in the interview. He was just he was just kind of crossing the line. And then the word kind of got around. The festival found out. He got cancelled from the festival.
Wow.
His manager then found out. I got calls from their management company, like, what do you want to do? And I think I was really upset with myself again, because it happened to me 10 years before, and I always promised myself if anyone ever said anything rude to me, that I would stand up for myself, and I didn't do it again on this second time. So I was really upset with myself that I never did anything. And then eventually I was in Ibiza about 2 weeks after, and I got a call, and he had been kicked out of a club because somebody else that was inside the same club had gone over to him and be like, I heard that you said this and you were like that with Katie, like we don't want you here, and he got kicked out. So then he got my number from somebody, called me, apologized, and he was like, I just didn't know that you were like known or anything in the industry. And I was like, what do you even mean?
What's that even got to do with it?
I was like, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't say anything to anybody, you know, like, no, it doesn't matter who they are. I was like, it's just disgusting, your attitude, and just like, just because you're a DJ, you think that you can get away with anything. So that was really uncomfortable, and I'm really glad that I did open up the conversation in the end and shook him up a little bit.
And amazing to actually hear the support that you've got. Because I think sometimes some of the conversations I've had about, you know, dance music industry, nightlife industry, like, are we unregulated? And even back then, like, we don't have these same corporate bodies or
100%.
places of escalation. But yet it sounded there like your community supported you.
It was very much like a lot of support from community, which was amazing. And like the guy that had kicked him out of this club, like I hadn't even told him that, somebody else had said. So it was nice to know that support was there. Yeah. And I really hope that I know that, you know, people maybe starting out in the industry, which I really hope nobody does go through any uncomfortable situations. It is hard to find that support when you're just starting out. I've had that. Yeah. I've been in that exact situation. And
I think that there is a danger to make men evil in it too, or make
absolutely.
Like, there are so many allies out there that I've had over the years, like more allies than not.
100%.
And I think we need to like note that and know that we're around the same table on this.
Well, I had even though I had that that support that I did, there were a couple of people in this same context that are not my friends, but males that were like, yeah, you know, but he was just messing, or, you know, just like sticking up for him and trying to make it sound like it was okay. I was like, it's not okay. It's not an okay thing to say. It's just rude. And it's not okay to speak to somebody like that, because I'm doing my job, which is interviewing you and presenting you, and you're just trying to make me feel like that. So yeah, I think there'll always be them other people that will try and stick up for their mates.
Yeah, and you know, I've been in similar situations and had many different responses over the years. You know, sometimes you just don't say anything because you think the business deal was bigger than that, and then you go away and you think, what, like, is anything worth that? You know, I've definitely been in similar situations, and other times you've spoken out and gone, was that even worth the backlash? And you know, I know over
that's
the years
you
can analyze yourself.
I know that's the thing. I think you just have to do what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah,
because I noticed because I was in the same place. I was like, maybe I'm just not going to say anything to anyone just because they're like, no. But the thing is, part of this story as well, another reason why I spoke out about it is because I wasn't the only person that he was rude to. I mean, mine was probably very, very minor compared to some of the other stuff that he'd said to other females during that same festival. Mm-hmm. And so we'd all spoken about it, and we were like, no, this isn't right. Like, it's just not right.
I think that's such an important point. Whenever I thought, it's not just me. Like, I can let things go water for I actually don't care. I don't care. I'm just like, it's not going to change my life. I'm not going to be sleepless nights. Whatever it is, what it is, whatever. I can let things go. But I remember there was an instance actually when we were growing out in Dubai, and there was a client out there who had brought me into his office for like a deal, and then had proceeded to like try to make an advance and offer me drugs in the same, with the office door locked. Now, I'm someone who I can handle that situation extremely easily, cut it off, boom. But then what I told my team, right? So like about a couple of days later, I said, look, we need to flag this. We're providing staff here. Like, we need to put some levels of safeguarding protection. Let's talk through what we do. And one of my team members that night was working there to embed some of the girls in, and didn't quite let the cogs click. And he did exactly the same thing to her, brought her into the office, and the same thing. And thankfully, we have a very open work environment where there's high levels of trust, high levels of transparency. Like, she felt comfortable enough to share, and she shared with us like the next day or a few days later. And obviously felt really mixed and shamed, because she was like, I know you told us this. Why did I do it? You know, she had that kind of thing to carry as well. But what we really talked about in that conversation was that it's his character. It's what we're seeing here is a character trait. It's not about oh, he fancied Sarah, or he wanted it.
Yeah.
It's who this person is.
Yeah.
And so the safeguarding had to come from our community. What are we going to do next, and what are we going to put in place next for anyone who may work at that venue, because we're seeing who this person is as a person.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And that's exactly how we felt. The 3 other girls that this happened to, we sat down, we spoke about it. And then obviously, as I said before, I had other people saying to me, like, how are you going to let him speak to you the way he did in that interview? So yeah, I think just talking about it with other people and coming up with a bit of a plan and knowing that you have that support there is always really helpful.
And it's scary when it's another country, because I remember speaking to somebody who's like part of the trade body here, and we're doing a panel on the new sexual harassment laws that are being implemented into workplaces, and that's for the UK. But we were talking about different DJs that she'd represented and been part of supporting, who had gone to foreign countries and had this experience there as well. And there you feel totally vulnerable because you're not protected by the laws that you may know and connect with. And that's a whole nother experience. And I know you've done a lot abroad as well, haven't you? Have you seen the way that you've been treated in the industry differently culturally?
To be honest, not really. Like, I don't really see a lot of differences. I think maybe like one of the biggest and probably most obvious was working in Saudi. I, for the last couple of years, worked for XP conference, which is in Riyadh, which is amazing, by the way, if anyone ever has the opportunity to go. It's super interesting. And it's just really great because it's like the dance music scene there is really, really starting to boom. It's the very beginning, and it's just a very, very exciting time. There's so much talent that's coming out of there, but obviously it's so new to them. And they've never really had that experience of having festivals and people, you know, partying, people that have come from different places around the world to attend an event. And so I think maybe there was a little bit of a cultural difference there. I definitely didn't feel unsafe or anything. I do remember when I got the offer to go and speak at this conference, a lot of people were like, why are you going to go to Saudi? There was it's
such a misconception, preconception, isn't there?
Well, that's the thing. I was like, well, listen, nobody else is. It was the first or second year of the conference. I didn't really know anyone that had been at this conference before. And I was like, okay, but all of these people that are saying to me, you shouldn't go as a woman. You shouldn't be traveling there by yourself. I was like, okay, have you been?
Yeah.
Have you been? Because I don't think you have. So I'm like, who are you to tell me not to go to Riyadh? And then that's why I was like, if I don't go and know for myself, or if people in our music industry from Europe, from America, don't go to these these types of events, to then be able to report back, like how are things ever going to change for them over there? Like, we have to play our role in that as well. We have to play the part of, you know, seeing for ourselves what other regions and what other music scenes are like, to then be able to, you know, to help that growth in other parts of the world. So I went and I had the most amazing, beautiful time ever.
Love it.
It's super interesting. The people are amazing. It was a little bit different. But it was great. I loved it. And I'm so glad I did. Yeah, I'm so glad I did. So I think besides that, I think I've always been quite lucky with other, you know, traveling to other places around the world. Yeah.
And so now you've moved back from Ibiza. What does your life look like here?
Definitely not as much sunshine. That is the only thing that I miss right now. I feel like I have a lot more routine.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a lot more routine. Ibiza, as I said before, is great, but it was a bit of a bubble. And work-wise, it was getting very samey. So here, I just feel a lot more relaxed, to be honest with you. I feel a little bit more grown up. Do
you like that?
I don't. No, I do. I needed to grow up a little bit. I feel a little bit more grown up, and I feel like I pick and choose my battles a little bit more now, which I also feel like I needed. Because, you know, Ibiza can be like just going out all the time, and it just becomes it just like never ends. So I think here it's been nice just to have a lot more me time. I feel a lot more like on point with things, and just like getting shit done, really.
Yeah. And are you doing more in the UK now that you're here?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot more in the UK. I've been doing some bits with Boiler Room, doing like their hosting.
Nice.
As I mentioned before, I work with a company in the States called Grey Area, so I'd like run all of their content. And I still like have to travel backwards and forwards in summer to Ibiza and to other parts of Spain for work. But it's fun. I like being back.
And you're doing a lot with the festivals this year?
Yeah, still doing a lot of festival stuff. I normally work with Amazon Music on a festival called Primavera Sound in Barcelona,
Nice.
which is a really, really cool festival.
Online,
yeah, it's amazing. So we do like a 3-day live TV broadcast from the festival. So that's like my main festival that I'll be working at. And then what else have we got? IMS Ibiza, and then obviously ADE. And then I can't really think off the top of my head what the festivals there are now. But yeah, there'll be lots of festivals. Awakenings is another one I've got.
Nice.
As well. Yeah.
And what keeps you in here? What's kept you in the industry for all these years?
Oh, that's such a good question. Let me think. I think I actually generally think the people. I just like the people that I have met in this industry. And I think this goes back again to having friends and people that you know from all over the world. And I did this festival a couple of years ago in Cairo, or an event in Cairo, and I met a girl there called Amina, and she's so lovely. She's from Cairo herself, and we've just became so close. And like having people like that spotted around the world, I think is really beautiful.
Yeah,
like from different backgrounds and like different walks of life, and it's just really nice.
Yeah, the people, you've got to love people in this industry, haven't you?
Yeah,
somehow.
Exactly.
Or be curious about people.
So I think probably that. And obviously like going to festivals, you get to travel a lot. I love to travel, although sometimes I do feel like I just want a bit of routine, but going to see like amazing parts of the world is like a huge bonus. And then it's just fun. Yeah. We do have fun.
We do have lots of fun.
We do have fun.
I think you've got to have that drive in you, haven't you? And like you've got to want to have a fun life.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I always think who doesn't, but some people that's not a big driver for them.
I know, but maybe fun for other people is like
something else.
Doing a jigsaw.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with jigsaws, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that, but like it's different types of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And what has been your favourite and most fun event or festival that you've been to, or wildest?
That's a good question as well. There's a festival in Serbia called Exit Festival.
Wow, Serbia.
Yeah, and that's an amazing festival. They have a stage. It's called the Dance Arena, and it's like, so normally obviously like you would have the DJ up here and then everybody else down here who's dancing, right? But it's the other way around. So like everybody's kind of, it's like a bit of a dip. I can't really know how I would explain. Like but you have like the DJ right at the bottom, and then everyone else is kind of on the top, like looking down, and like all of the energy like concentrates in the middle of this arena. It's really, really cool. The sound system is amazing, and like the most incredible sunrises. It's just a really cool festival. Yeah, that's a really good one.
And there's just so many festivals globally now, isn't there?
Oh my god, there's so many festivals. There's literally festivals popping up everywhere.
Yeah, it's something I love about the UK in the summer.
UK festivals are good.
Yeah.
Glastonbury is amazing.
Never done Glastonbury.
Oh, you have to.
I know you've
I'm
got
going
to.
with Roberta this year.
Are you?
Yeah,
I love that. Oh, she did actually mention. She said she's going to Glastonbury. Yeah.
Yes, Glastonbury is such a good festival. It's a great festival to like come across new acts as well that you would not normally go and listen to. So yeah, Glastonbury is fun. It is absolute chaos, so you would love it.
Chaos box tip. I think like beginning of the year I sat down and I was like, right, once a month plan for some planned chaos.
Yeah, exactly. I know. What are we like? We're so weird.
I know. So if there's someone listening who's like wanting to get into the industry, you know, looking for that way in, and I know you gave the advice of networking, so let's take another piece of advice. What would you say they should do?
Oh, I mean, I think first of all, like, kind of knowing a little bit where you would want to go. Like, is it music? Is it like making music? Is it DJing? Is it presenting? Is it becoming an agent, a manager? Even though you may not know like that specific goal, at least maybe try and like find a little bit of where you would like to go. So start creating that path, I guess. But also I would say like go to acts that you probably wouldn't normally go to. Like, you will be so surprised sometimes. Like, I've been to festivals before. My friends are like, oh, let's go and see so-and-so. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to like it. And then I've had the best time. It's like, go to the acts you wouldn't normally go to. And just try different things. Go to a festival that you probably would never, ever think that you would go to before. And yeah, I think just keeping yourself like curious and interested in like the different parts of the industry. One of my things when I started was like, I got to a point where I'd interviewed so many DJs, but then I was like, I don't really know what anybody else does in the industry, like what happens behind the scenes, which was the reason why I'd started the podcast as well. Because it was just, I wanted to know more about like the managers, or, you know, the promoters, or the tour managers, or just what do other people do in our industry. So I think like just staying really curious and learning about what other people do is really I think it's important, and I think it's healthy just to kind of understand how everything works.
I love that, staying curious. I know like last year I was doing a panel at the Brighton Music Conference.
So was I.
How
did we see each other there?
I've been doing all of this for ages.
Sliding doors.
And that was exactly one of the things that came up. It was like, actually look behind the scenes and see the people that are doing different things. Because sometimes you don't even know what job opportunities there are there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm on this, have you heard, you might even be in it, this WhatsApp group called She Is The Music.
No.
Okay, so there's this WhatsApp group. It's called She Is The Music, and it's basically for women in music. And it started off as a very small WhatsApp group. Some girls in America started it, and then obviously like word kind of got around and people started getting added to it. There's like just under 1,000 people now in this group, and then there's like subgroups of the WhatsApp group. So there's like one for Miami Music Week, there's one for AD, one for London. And it really, really like blows my mind the amount of roles and people that are in this industry, because sometimes I'm like, where do all these people come from? I always used to have the thought and the idea and the perception of the music industry being really small.
Yeah.
And I think I probably thought that because in Ibiza it is a bubble and it is small and it is the same people. But when you actually come out of that and you looked like into the rest of the music industry, it's fucking massive.
Yeah.
It's really, really big. And there are, you know, there's so many different roles now, and everything changes so quickly, and everything advances and everything evolves, and new different positions arise, and it's super interesting. But yeah, just seeing this WhatsApp group, I was like,
wow,
who are you and what do you do? Like, it's really very specific roles, and I think that's cool as well. I think there was a point in the industry, it was very much like, you have your manager, you have your tour manager, you have your graphic designer, and you have like your 4 things. But now there's like very like, I specialize in TikTok creation, or I specialize in whatever, you know.
Love this. Amazing. So how can people stay connected to you, learn more about what you do?
So I guess the usual socials. So my social media is Katie Hay Knight. I have a podcast called Can You Put Me on Guest List?
Nice.
And I would probably say they're the 2 main places.
Amazing.
Where you can see my nonsense.
Yeah, watch Katie's vibes. Love it. Good energy, high energy, happy vibes. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
It's been lovely, a lovely, nice little Wednesday break.